stories are centuries old.
If it comes in the 9th century, it's over a millennium, that it's been around. Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing is that the reason why these are the big four are because they've gone through so many different versions. They all hit the opera.
Mhm.
They all hit the opera. They all hit some other kind of artistic expression, either
Mhm.
in art or in music or
Right.
so, they're like our Snow White and Sleeping
Yes.
Beauty.
Yeah.
So
But they've shifted along the way. I know Whitesnake has. The others, I imagine, shifted as well over time.
so shifted in some ways, but the core of it has always kind of been
Hmm.
the central core of what they are, like Cowherd and Weaver Girl. So, we celebrate during this time of year because that's when,
It's coming up very soon, isn't it?
yes, the celestial event occurs. So it explains the celestial event. And it's the story of undying love.
Yeah.
So, that hasn't changed too much.
No.
Butterfly
No.
Lovers, there's been maybe many, many versions of it, but it's still the same, even in death, you cannot
Mhm.
part those who are truly in
Yeah.
love with each other. So I think White Snake is the one is the most, has
Serpentine.
yeah, right. It's just it goes through so many different changes. It really is the struggle of the culture to determine what are we moved by, what are we governed by,
Mhm.
what kind of precepts do we follow, what kind of philosophies. So the others are just, eternal love stories.
Okay. Yeah.
But the White Snake is more than a love story.
Mhm.
It's about all of the different major philosophies in China and um, how they have precedence over each other or how they coexist.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Well, and certainly the role of women in them has shifted a great deal over
yes, yes,
their
yes. And White Snake is the best one to show that.
yeah, yeah.
It's like yeah, the female roles have just really gained a lot of yeah, a lot of importance.
We've spoke before about how popular this story is now, and how I did take the time to watch the Jet Li version of it, and I see why you don't like it.
I know, it's like, oh, yuck.
But um, with the more popular versions seem to reference a shift towards more individualism in the culture than I think was ever there, and is that most of us would associate with Chinese culture. So that's been interesting.
And that is a big shift in China itself
Hmm.
about it because, Western culture is so individualized
Hmm.
and Chinese culture is so collective.
Yeah.
So doing things for the good of especially the family
Hmm.
or the good of the whole is, such an important part of Chinese culture. And it's still there in the modern versions,
Yes.
but people get to show their identities more. They get to
Hmm.
have characteristics that they can truly call their own. They have their own free will.
Hmm.
They have their own choices, and they can go against what the community wants. So all of those are big deals. It's very, very,
Yeah, the modern shifts or variations, or I don't know what to call them, but yeah.
yes. Yeah, but it's exciting to see.
Hmm. Mhm. I think the other shift that I think is clear, and we've kind of already referenced it, is at least as I understand the earliest versions, uh, I would say the white snake is by no means a. I'm going to say this. She's not a likable character. Uh, she's the villain. I think in some of those older versions, and in this, and there's a move away from that. I guess it's probably is that a
Well, the oldest versions are simply ghost
yeah.
stories. Here's, here's an evil demon that's masquerading as a human being and getting a human being in her clutches,
Mhm.
kind of thing. And this evil needs to be routed out. So
Right.
that's what the early stories were, and they evolved. She became something much more. She became something that has feelings, has a compassionate nature. Some There's depth to her.
Mhm.
So even though she is a demon, there's something more to her that is is universal and compelling that we all can understand. She's like our own natures. If you're a demon, you can still be a person that transcends evil
Mhm.
and has, can have love and care and mercy and all of those beautiful humane characteristics.
Mhm.
So that's how the story progressed
Right.
for her character. People wanted to develop her more instead of just having her, just blowing her off as an evil
As
spirit.
as evil demon, right?
Yeah, thinking about the evil that's internalized in us.
Mhm.
So that's what the story starts to become.
One of the many things I find interesting is I love looking at stories to find characters that are either um, too simplistic or you know um, almost just there for the scenery. They serve a little plot device and then they're done. Um, and finding new ways of looking at those characters that makes them more dimensional, that makes them more um, relatable. And for me, that process also often starts with making them more compassionate. I can find the good in them. But if I just stop there and I only see the good and have to give up all the evil that was in there to get there, I worry that I've changed them too much. And so, how do I keep those two forces in present and in balance um, in the character? And that seems to be happening with the white snake.
It definitely
Yeah,
happens with the
yeah,
White Snake.
yeah.
Yes, as it goes through its many versions, the characters become uh they come into focus and then they kind of dissolve into something else. So they're constantly changing.
Mhm.
So what you were talking about minor characters becoming, important to the story. That's definitely what happens in Whitesnake. And
Mhm.
some characters become something else. They transform. And in fact, the whole part about transformation and uh, reincarnating and reconstructing who they are is a
Mhm.
constant constant occurrence in the stories. So the story can span, thousands and thousands of years. The snake studies for 500 years,
Right, right.
to um, she does this intensive 500-year study in order to learn all that she can know. And, and that's, it's just a flick
Yes.
in time to her.
Just turn to the next page, right?
So all of this evolving occurs, and it happens through all the characters. One character and is this in one life and then becomes this in another life. In the early stories, a tortoise becomes a
The priest.
Taoist priest. So it's like, yeah, they change.
But I think there's another dimension to that, which is, talk about understanding cultural differences. Um, and that is there's a more ready acceptance of even the notion of reincarnation, and of rebirth, which finds, it's kind of comes into Western stories. Usually it's more like a shapeshifter than anything else who can change forms. But um, to say, well, the next life they come back as this. I know that you're talking about between versions of the story, but I think it's also true in the story itself and in any one iteration of the story. I wonder if that's even noticeable to someone who's, is that like the water that the fish are swimming in? It's such a, a clear assumption. It's not even a thought assumption of
Yes.
what's possible.
So the hero dies, and then, later on in the story, he comes back in another life. And of course,
Of course, right, right.
yeah. So it, yes. So that is a big, huge part of the story. This, this you don't leave life. You're still
Mm-hmm,
in the life that
mm-hmm,
you constantly move into the future.
mm-hmm,
So, what you do really matters.
mm-hmm.
What you do now is not going to just, is, you know, for
It's
nothing.
not just a fleeting cloud.
Yeah, it's not for nothing.
Yeah.
Whatever you've done in your life is carrying over into when you come back again.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can start over, or you can start again, or you
Right.
can do it differently, or you can, but it's not simply, you die and that's the
And
end.
that's it. And I think also, the idea is not only do your actions carry over for you to your next lives, but they carry over for your family and your community, and it's a much greater responsibility than even just saying, oh, if I mess up this time, I'm going to have it hard next time. No, I'm messing it up for other people as well. Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah. And I chuckle because I think in a lot of Western storytelling, and I don't mean folklore so much as modern storytelling, you know, the idea of, oh, you came back is from being dead is seen as, oh, the writer got stuck, so they needed a clever way out of the story, rather than saying, no, this is the way it works, and it's something to be thought of as you're living your life.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Have
So I
I
like I
go
like in
ahead.
one of the very earliest versions of White Snake how the young man uh, is sort of uh, deteriorates after being with the White Snake, and in one version he dissolves into a puddle of water.
That's one powerful person to be worrying about, isn't it?
So, um, so when he dies, if he dies in other versions,
Mm-hmm,
then he comes back again as a
mm-hmm,
human being, and you know, and he starts where he left off.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so,
Yeah.
yes, let's keep the story going.
Now, I know you've been living kind of in both cultures. So how is it for you to have this kind of notion of this life is not just a once off and then we're done? In this American culture that you find yourself.
Oh, well, it's a little frustrating. It's it so and sometimes it's a little hard for me to um it's a little hard for me because when people are thinking they're gonna die and they're gonna go off into some other place and be removed
Mhm.
from what your life has been, uh, or you just die and then that's it.
Yeah.
Uh, it's that's really difficult because you don't accept the responsibilities of what you've done in your life.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I really it's hard for me to
Mhm.
see people running their lives that way because
Mhm.
it's like, you need to be
Wake up.
a little responsible for the things that you do now.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, yeah, for that reason, it's been hard. But one of the wonderful things about going into depth on this story is it's bringing to me um, uh, the the Chinese culture that I didn't know about because I didn't grow up in it,
Mhm.
but to find out how much of that is in me anyway, regardless, because
Right.
I am Chinese.
Right.
It's in my it's in my family culture, whether we realize it or not. And
Mhm.
to, just it's just been a wonderful exploration of what being Chinese is
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
affirmation as well. So I've just really appreciated being able to delve into this story because it has so many aspects, so many nuances. And and just like you were saying, about living in a Western culture where reincarnation is not a part of the belief system,
Mhm.
it's like, it really strikes me how difficult that is to move through that.
Mhm.
People don't go there,
That's
or
right.
they aren't there and they're not going there, but that's where I'm headed and that's what I'm
Mhm.
thinking. So be nice to share a different perspective for people.
Yes. I remember years ago, I was fortunate enough to visit Nepal for a while, and it was my first time really in that part of the world. And we had a wonderful guide who was we just found locally, and he was just very knowledgeable. And I'm always interested in social justice and that sort of thing. That's big in my life. And so I asked him about, well, in he was Hindu, um, and they have they look at the world in that same way that there's reincarnation. And I was is my first real encounter with someone who lived that world. Didn't it wasn't a theory in a book. And I said, so how is it that you manage social justice if you're going to be reincarnated anyways? And he said, you don't get it at all. And yeah, I didn't. I mean, it was a real awakening for me to realize what you're saying here, that we have not just an enduring life, but an enduring responsibility and an enduring community in many ways. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We just don't we just don't close the door on it.
No, no.
We're back in.
I was reading a version of the story recently that it made me think it must have been written by a Westerner because it ended with, and they lived happily ever after, or words to that effect. And it was like, no, this, this wasn't the end of their challenges. We may not know what they are, but I don't think we'd ever say, or I don't think it would be said that this was their last struggle in all of their lives to follow.
Yes, yeah, yes, it doesn't ever really end in happily ever after.
Right.
But it could be very happy.
Could be very happy and for a very long time.
Yes. And then,
Yes. And
yeah, because there's always going to be change and there will always be challenges.
yes. Yeah. And so, and just one more question. Again, this is my education that I want to kind of make clear. Um, when we talk about the the cultural value of community, um, and never mind the current shifts that it's under for just a moment. Um, it really does start with the family, as I understand it. But is there, in some cultures, there's kind of like rings of significance. First your immediate family, and then your cousins and aunts, and then your neighborhood, and then is there that sort of a thing, a sense of where your priorities lie, or is it just it's not a very clear question, but um,
So if you understand, you're thinking in concentric rings.
right,
If you
right.
think of those concentric rings as being um, on the surface of a,
Ah, okay.
so everything is connected.
Yes.
So it isn't here's level one and then there's level two.
Which is, I realize as soon as I say that, that's such an individualist. I have to put myself at the center of that for there to be some concentric rings, right?
Yes, because I when I think of family, it's not just, the family that I was born into. I
Right.
was born into this family it was enormous and it extended very far and it didn't even include people that I was related to by blood.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I had, just a huge extended family that actually extended out to the entire community of the
Hmm.
San Francisco Bay Area of Chinese and the Chinese American diaspora.
Right.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
so it is more like that, the surface of that water and
Yeah. Yeah.
those ripples that go out, but it connects you always to everything and everybody.
Yeah. And you're not at the center of it, you're inside it.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Uh, so much to learn. So much to learn.
But that's a very beautiful analogy. We found a great analogy for that
Hmm.
collectivism.
Yeah.